74,000 years ago, a single event nearly erased humanity from existence. This is the story of the Toba Supervolcano. Today, Lake Toba in Indonesia looks peaceful, beautiful even. But hidden beneath this tranquil water lies the scar of the most devastating volcanic eruption in human history. Rewind 74,000 years. The world was in the grip of an ice age, and living through it were two species of humans. The Neanderthals, stronger, more cold adapted than us. They'd survived in Europe for over 200,000 years. Meanwhile, our ancestors, Homo Sapiens, were just beginning to spread out of Africa. Smaller numbers, less established, more vulnerable. But neither species knew what was coming. Deep beneath Sumatra, a magma chamber the size of a mountain range was reaching critical pressure. And then it happened. The eruption released 2,800 cubic kilometers of material. That's enough to bury the entire United States under half a meter of ash. Within weeks, ash covered most of Asia. Within months, it had spread across the entire planet. The sun disappeared. Temperatures plummeted. Some scientists estimate global temperatures dropped by 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. This wasn't just winter. This was a volcanic winter that would last for years. Plants died. Without plants, herbivores starved. Without herbivores, predators followed. The entire food chain collapsed. For Neanderthals in Europe, it was catastrophic. Already adapted to cold climates, they now faced conditions beyond anything they'd evolved for. Food became impossibly scarce. Homo sapiens fared no better. Genetic evidence suggests our population crashed to as few as 3,000 to 10,000 breeding individuals. We were on the brink of extinction. This moment left a permanent mark in our DNA. Scientists call it a genetic bottleneck. To this day, all 8 billion humans on Earth share remarkably similar genes, because we all descended from those few thousand survivors. Neanderthal populations became fragmented, isolated, small groups scattered across a frozen wasteland, unable to maintain genetic diversity. This was the beginning of their end. But here's where the stories diverge. Homo sapiens, perhaps because we were already less specialized, began adapting. New tools, new hunting strategies, fishing, more flexible social networks. Some scientists believe coastal populations became refugees. Seafood remained more reliable than terrestrial game. These pockets of survivors held on through the darkest years. It took centuries, maybe millennia, for the world to recover. Slowly, the ash settled, the sun returned, plants grew again. Homo sapiens began to rebound. We spread across Asia, into Europe, eventually across the entire world. That small surviving population would become everyone alive today. But Neanderthals never truly recovered. Their populations remained small, isolated, vulnerable. while they would survive for another 30,000 years, they were living on borrowed time. As Homo Sapiens expanded into Europe, we encountered Neanderthals. Sometimes we competed, sometimes we interbred, but we had the numbers, the momentum. They didn't. Around 40,000 years ago, the last Neanderthals disappeared. Some lasted in refuges like Gibraltar until perhaps 28,000 years ago. Then they were gone. But they're not entirely gone. If you have European or Asian ancestry, 1 to 4% of your DNA is Neanderthal. They live on, in us. Now, here's where it gets controversial. Some scientists question the Toba Catastrophe theory. They argue the genetic evidence might reflect other population pressures, that Neanderthals were already in decline. Recent discoveries show some human populations in India survived Toba relatively unscathed. Maybe it wasn't the apocalypse we thought. Maybe it was just really, really bad. What we do know is this. Toba was one factor among many. Climate change, competition for resources, disease, inbreeding in small populations, it all compounded. Toba reminds us how fragile we are, how close we came to never existing. Our entire species reduced to a few thousand people clinging to survival. Every person alive today descended from those survivors. But it also shows our resilience. We survived when other human species didn't. We adapted. We innovated. We spread to every corner of the planet. The Neanderthals weren't primitive. They weren't inferior. They were us in another form. They just happened to be in the wrong place when the Earth decided to remind us who's really in charge. 74,000 years later, that volcano sleeps, and we've inherited the Earth they once walked, all because of a few thousand survivors who refused to give up. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out our video on other human species that went extinct. The volcano sleeps for now, but remember, we are the children of the ash, and our odyssey is just beginning. So next time you look in the mirror, remember this. You are looking at the face of a survivor. Until the next chapter.